Hello, this is John Bennett from BBC Sports. You're listening to 32 FM 94.9.
The best players in the world and their best plays.
Magic again.
Messi through 4.
Brilliant!
Threads it in. And there's the goal from Pedro.
It's sports on 32 FM 94.9.
After the tactics comes the play.
It's Carlo, what's he going to do? Oh!
After the play comes the goal.
Could be the match winner from Lionel Messi. Ronaldo! Aguero, they'll do it. It's a terrific goal.
After the goal comes the uproar. It's sports on 32 FM 94.9.
All right, so we are gathered once again on the show this afternoon. Scoreboard Reloaded, that's the program for us this afternoon. We are here to reload the biggest headlines and make it around today in the exciting world of sports, and also the emerging stories in the last 6, 7, 8 hours. Well, of course, you know that for the Super Falcons of Nigeria against Portugal yesterday, it was a 0-0. But for one woman, it was a show. I'm talking about the vice captain of the side, Chiamaka Nnadozie. She made a couple of saves yesterday, and then you question the level of preparation of the Super Falcons of Nigeria at this year's edition of the Women's African Cup of Nations. Well, for the 9-time African champions, they are set to land in Morocco. That's tomorrow, just ahead of the last friendly game they have to play before the commencement of the Women's African Cup of Nations. Well, we have updates also from the defending champions of the WAFCON. That's the Banyana of South Africa. Well, you tell that Tebi Gatlana, she is missing out. And also, you talk about one woman who also has called it a quit from the folds of the Banyana of South Africa. Well, outside that, we discuss about some that's tennis stories where it is all about the Wimbledon set to begin also. And then we talk about basketball stories. Yes, we know the NBA season is over, but for the Indiana Pacers, Tyrese Haliburton, he said off the basketball regular season. And then you talk about some athletics event where Armand Duplantis, the Swede international, the Swedish man, well, definitely, it says vaulting at 6.40 meters is within the realm of possibility. Remember that this man keeps going to events, to tournaments, and then he keeps breaking his own personal record and sets his own record. But then, in football at large, it is about the FIFA Club World Cup. Well, of course, Group A and Group B, we have 4 teams already out of the group stages of this year's FIFA Club World Cup. The action continues later today. That's in Group C and also in Group D. Well, African side Mamelodi Sundowns, they need a victory to be in the next round of that's talking about the FIFA Club World Cup. And then we'll talk about another Brazilian side, Flamengo. Well, of course, remember, they are yet to taste a defeat. Can they win against LAFC later today and get their victory? Chelsea against Esperance de Tunis. A victory for Esperance. Well, I would say that they are through into the next round. And of course, a defeat for Chelsea does them no good. Borussia Dortmund on the other hand, well, their game set to go down in the early hours of tomorrow. Well, definitely late tomorrow rather, and then we talk about some club football stories where it is all about Crystal Palace. Remember, there is a tussle between Crystal Palace and Nottingham Forest, but just as it is in their bid to play European football next season, it looks like that is going to be possible without the involvement of the football body, Dries Mertens, that's a Belgian international. Well, he has called it a quit, also retiring from football. And then we discuss about some other stories that definitely catches the eye as the program goes on this lovely afternoon. 24 minutes before the hour 4 on the PM side. And again, you're locked on to 32 FM 94.9. And you're listening to the voice of Oluwatimileyin SAMIES. You're the program. A lovely afternoon once again. And I have Peter here with me. Good afternoon, Peter.
Good afternoon, SAMIES. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here. So much you pointed out. Let's hope that time will be enough to do all of this.
All right, just as we are counting down to the Women's African Cup of Nations for the Super Falcons, they were involved in a friendly game yesterday, and it was a 0-0. At a point in that game, from the highlights I saw that, or it felt like a game the Super Eagles were condemned to a defeat. But it was chairman
Eagles or Falcons?
Falcons.
Okay, so you tell your Super Eagles.
Falcons.
So
Falcons.
I was going to check my list to see.
The Falcons were condemned for a defeat, but it just didn't happen that way. Just because of the heroics of Chiamaka Nnadozie. 0-0, like I said, it ended. And from the players who definitely saw through that game, you would maybe say that it was a game which definitely had maybe some array of stars on display for the Super Falcons, especially Chiamaka Nnadozie. I'm just saying this just as we are preparing for the Women's African Cup of Nations. We didn't really bite, but they attacked us so much, and Chiamaka had a couple of saves, up to 8-9 saves in that game against Portugal.
Yeah, good. You want to say from the former Paris FC goalkeeper? Of course, we know that she's not renewing her deal with the French-based side for the coming women's season. So it was good for her, for clubs who might probably be looking for a signature, to see how good Nnadozie is. And last night was another moment again for us to say what a goalkeeper we have in our ranks. And I remember when it comes to shootouts, on the flip side, for how long are we going to have this happen? You make your goalkeeper your best player, and is the last woman standing. So if you cannot take care of your end, any slight mistake from her, then we concede. But I hope that the handlers will work on that. The other part I also saw was that we had our own chances, maybe one. You want to say it's half, but it does depend on how you see it. From the score Dega, when the Portuguese goalkeeper made an error, she almost chipped the ball over the Portuguese goalkeeper. The ball hit the crossbar and went out. Maybe that was just our own moment from it. But like you mentioned, they had their moment. They were playing at home in front of the fans. Don't forget also that the Women European Championship also will start in a few days from now. So it was good for Portugal and Nigeria to have a feel, have a taste, and play the friendly game. And we will look forward to the girls. The next game will be in Casablanca, in Morocco, against the Black Queens of Ghana. So the friendly games, the girls are done with that. They should be on their way out to Morocco for this year's WAFCON. And for Chiamaka Nnadozie, let's hope that she will be the one to help us. Not us, her, but the other girls in the team. But it looks like if there's any girl who want to call on Paul now, is our goalkeeper, which is actually sad, like I said a few minutes ago. Handlers, work on the girls, and let's have a good performance. You mentioned a couple of days ago there's a mission for this. It's Mission X. And I said for me it has to be the mission to go win La Decima, to win the 10th European, the WAFCON. It's difficult now, more than ever before. Last 15, 20, 25 years, it was smooth sailing for our girls. But now we know it is very tough because we did not prepare enough. For a moment like this, we thought it will go for long years. But here we are, they're catching up with us, if not even caught up with our girls. And good for African football, you want to say. And let's see how the girls come to the party in the next few days in North Africa.
All right, just as we are counting down to the Women's African Cup of Nations, and like I said, the Super Falcons, they have another friendly scheduled for Sunday against the perennial rivals, that's the Black Queens of Ghana. And remember that our opening game definitely is against Tunisia there in Casablanca. That's on Sunday, on July 16. Well, we are in that's the group alongside Botswana, Algeria, and Tunisia. So let's see how the Super Falcons can still gear themselves up just before the commencement of the Women's African Cup of Nations. And still talking about our rivals from the African scene, that's the defending champions of the Women's African Cup of Nations. That's the Banyana of South Africa. Well, their star, Seopon Sewe, she has announced her retirement from international football. That's after the upcoming African Cup of Nations. At the age of 31, she made the heartfelt announcement on her personal social media platforms revealing that the decision, though difficult, has been long in the making. Well, retiring from international football. She's named in a coach of the Israelis, a preliminary 28 player squad for the WAFCON, a tournament where she hopes to make one final impact before calling time on an international career. And then you talk about another woman, that's Thembi Kgatlana. Well, she shared the world stage, one-time Women's African Player of the Year. Well, she will head into the Women's African Cup of Nations, South Africa rather. They'll go into the Women's African Cup of Nations without a star striker, Thembi Kgatlana. And for me, she is famous for one thing, just having a shirt being tucked for the duration of the match. But a withdrawal reportedly attributed to undisclosed personal reasons. So, where do South Africa go from here?
They have to look for a way. They have to look for ways to go to see if they can defend the title they won. You might say kind of good news for the opponents, but you expect that the head coach of the side, Dr. Ellis, will have prepared for life without her in the team. It's an opportunity for other girls to show what they have. It's a sad one that she will not be there. Organizers would have wished that all star players, it's just like we were here, people questioning how the likes of Odega and Oshoala, who have not played for a while for the Super Falcons, are on their way to WAFCON. So these are the kind of tournament that organizers CAF want the poster girls, the girls who are household name in African football, to be part of. But with South Africa not having the key player for this tournament must have been something that they've analyzed, they've talked about weeks before the start of WAFCON. And let's see what they do, what Banyana will do without her. You mentioned her talking. You know, it brings to mind, if you put the male and the female together, players who just love it. They have their shirt tucked in all game. And, you know, a few days ago, I was just sitting down. I was just trying to do a count of players who do this thing a lot. And the one that comes to my mind always are two players. Javier Zanetti of Inter Milan and Argentina, and Azpilicueta of Chelsea and Spain.
What about Rodri?
Yes, Rodri also. Just those two always, because they're defenders. They play in similar position.
Okay.
They're so dogged and so committed with the club they played for.
Yeah, what about João Neves? He doesn't.
I'm not.
No, I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
I'm just making that head count also. Like, okay, from those who watch now, João Neves does.
Hector Bellerin also. I also have her in my head. One of those players who also talked in a lot. Gano played for Sundowns. He came on, Motiba, I forget his full name now, came on in the game against Dortmund and scored the third goal. He's also one of those players who you see them talking. So there are not too many players who will go to the pitch for 90 minutes and have the shirt talking.
All shades of seriousness.
Yes,
that's what.
But Roger also is one of those players who always like it. And he like the whole school fashion. It's whole school fashion.
Yeah, old school. But still talking about South Africa, you have former AC Milan and solo midfielder, that's Refugee of now that's TS Galaxy. She will captain the side. For Banyana, they are in Group C where they will face that's Ghana, Tanzania, and Mali. So let's see how they would go far at this Women's African Cup of Nations. And then, we'll come on subsequent show to discuss about everything you need to know about the Women's African Cup of Nations. 12 teams, 3 groups, fighting for one cause. But quickly, let's talk about the FIFA Club World Cup. 2-2, 4-4. that was the result of games that went down yesterday. And then the victory was not enough for Atletico de Madrid. Paris Saint-Germain, of course, expected of them to defeat the Seattle Sounders, and they did that yesterday. But you talk about Inter Miami, who are set to face off against Paris Saint-Germain in the round of 16 of this year's FIFA Club World Cup. But for the European sides, maybe Porto, I was not really impressed with their outing at the Club World Cup.
So 2-2-4-4 sounds like a formation, even though it can be like a formation in the game of football. I also was there a couple of days ago as we did a preview for the Club World Cup. And when I was taking my peek from Group A, I said Porto hasn't been the Porto that I know. They struggled in the last 2-3 seasons. So this Club World Cup might come too early for them. They might not do too well, and that happened. Last night, I saw a team that was conceding goals very cheaply. Kudos to the Egyptian giant El Alou, who actually did their own homework. I think both teams, the 8 goals yesterday, maybe 6 of those goals were avoidable. But it is what it is in the game of football. A game that gave us spectacle, gave us goals from both ends, end to end, from both teams. Result wasn't good for them. Maybe the goals was good for the neutrals who were there to watch. For the Portuguese who wanted to win and see if result elsewhere favors. The Egyptians also were looking for a miracle to happen, but all of this never happened for these two sides. So they're out of it. Egypt will go home and assess their head coach, the Portuguese, the former head coach of Orlando Pirates, Rivero, to see if he can continue. Don't forget, El Ali don't take anything for granted. They don't take prisoners at all. And so we wait to see. For Porto, it's a young squad. Like I was saying the other time, this is not the Porto I grew up to. The Porto with Vincent Abubakar and a few other names who have played for that club side. But now I see them struggle in defense. And to think that the goalkeeper of the side, who was not part of the Club World Cup, is Portugal's #1 goalkeeper. Something quick will be done, but jumping to the other teams who will find their way to the round of 16, or 4 of them now, it's going to be an interesting battle, SAMIES, between Botafogo and Palmeiras in the round of 16, 2 Brazilian club side. So we're going to see a kind of a Brazilian derby in the round of 16. Inter Miami wanted to win, kind of from what I saw yesterday in the earlier of this morning, to avoid Paris Saint-Germain in the round of 16. But Messi have got no choice. He will have to play against his former employers in the round of 16. It's Inter Miami against PSG. And it looks like, from what I have and what I'm seeing right here, it looks like that's the only American team that will qualify for the round of 16. It doesn't look good for LA FC because...
But the both with their lead.
Yeah. You said?
Yeah. The both with their lead.
Both with the lead, yes. It wasn't one thing that they want to do. But they will also take solace in the fact that they were able to qualify for the round of 16. 2-0 they led. Don't forget also they were the only team in round 2, or from round 1 to round 2, who came from a goal down to win. So if they also did not get a win yesterday, that is football for you. So I'm hoping to see a good game, a good round of 16. We're going to see more games later tonight, Group C and D, or C and then some D in the early hours of Wednesday morning, and then things begin to take shape ahead of the round of 16 games that will start this weekend.
All right, from those games, it's set to go down later tonight by 8 p.m. Auckland City, of course, they are out of the competition. 16 goals they've conceded to Bayern Munich and also to the hands of Benfica. Well, they'll be up against Brazil, Argentine heavyweights. That's Boca Juniors also later tonight. And Benfica also be up against the Bayern Munich. And then you talk about Bayern Munich, whom, of course, maybe I've been impressed. They've given us games this season, this FIFA Club World Cup.
They've given us goals?
They've given us goals, yes. Yeah. And the game against the Boca Juniors was it, indeed.
Yeah, it was it. 6 points from 2 games. Tonight, whatever happened in the round of 16, I repeat, whatever happened, they might not finish top, but with that much goals they've scored, hit the John boys from New Zealand by 10 goals to 0. I mean, what else again do you want to do? That's how you beat people. So tonight, it's going to be Portuguese team Benfica against Bayern of Germany, and the other game we'll see Boca Juniors against Auckland. So it was 6 that Benfica did against the John Boys from New Zealand. It was 10 the Bavarians did against the New Zealanders. And tonight, how many will the Argentine team do to this team? So it's about how many goals you can score in this one. So I look forward to the game between Bayern and Benfica. That will interest me more than the other game between Boca and Auckland City.
All right. I discussed about Chelsea maybe not making it out of the group stage, but they would be up against Esperance de Tunis later tonight. Later in the early hours of tomorrow, that's at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And LAFC will be up against Flamengo, who staged that magnificent comeback also against Chelsea the last time out.
So, like I said when I was making my pick, Chelsea get this one done against the Experience. And so Maresca wasn't too happy in his press conference. They could not finish training session because of the weather situation in the U.S. You play games for 2 a.m. Nigerian time, which is about 8 p.m. in the U.S., about 9 or 7 in some region, and you still see the players sweating. So it's been a tough one for Chelsea Football Club. Couldn't wrap up the training session the last few hours. But I expect them to go past the Tunisian Giants, the Experience of Tunis. And then the other game that is involving Flamengo and LAFC, that also should be done and dusted. So it's about LA Galaxy saying, you know what, they want to claim top of that table to avoid a Bayern round of 16. So it will be interesting to see how that pans tonight. But again, I hope that the two teams that have picked get their place in the round of 16, Chelsea and Flamengo, and then I can see Chelsea play against Bayern in the round of 16.
All right, enough of the FIFA Club World Cup. Also, let's quickly discuss about this one. It's just the bid to play UEFA competition next season, and this is from that's Crystal Palace, the Eagles. Yes. For Crystal Palace, the New York Jets owner is Woody Johnson. He has agreed to buy John Textor's that's a 43% stake at Crystal Palace in a deal that could boost the Eagles' hope of playing in the Europa League next season. Remember, they qualified automatically to play in the UEFA Europa League by defeating Manchester City in the finals of the English FA Cup. That's by a goal to nil. And however, the US businessman Textor has a majority stake in French side Lyon, who have also qualified for the UEFA Europa League. And then, under UEFA multi-club ownership rules, it looked as though Palace would miss out because they finished lower in the Premier League 12th than Lyon 6th in the Ligue 1 last season. So now, is this a buyout for Crystal Palace to actually play in the UEFA Europa League? Remember, there is a pending issue where we awaited the decision by the football body by the end of this month.
Smart move. As simple as that. You want Eagles, you want Palace, who haven't tasted European football, to taste it. And then the issues concerning ownership and stakeholders is going to knock them out, not even on the pitch, but off the pitch. And someone say, you know what, I can let go. So if that's going to be the case, I think it's good. But like you said, we'll wait to see if all of this will not matter in terms of the decisions that they will be taking. And they've all been making statements. So it goes to show that paperwork is moving pretty fast for them to ensure all of this is wrapped up before we begin to see the draws. Don't forget, in the last few days, we've seen preliminary draws for the Champions League, for the UEFA Cup, for the Conference League, that will have the smaller teams involved. Crystal Palace might be small, but coming from a league that is not small, so that they will have their passage into the group stage of the UEFA Cup for 25-26. So quick decision will have to be made for us to know if all of these sales and taking away some of the shares with Crystal Palace will work and not make them get suspended. It's a tough one. It's not the first time we hear something like this. I've had it when Chelsea former owner, the Russian Roman Abramovich, said there was a share with Chelsea Football Club and an Eastern European-based club side that was settled. And so these are things that we get to see most of the time, and there's a way they get to resolve it. So I hope that this also is resolved on time for us to see Crystal Palace in the small stadium, the Selhurst Park, have some top European teams come there and play.
His majority stake is out of it. He missed out on a bid to complete the buyout of Chelsea, but it is so good to see that he also has a share in Botafogo, who are presently playing in the FIFA Club World Cup.
Yeah, and you saw, maybe you didn't see it, I saw pictures, videos of him after they defeated European champions Paris Saint-Germain, and he was screaming and shouting and was super excited that his team, Botafogo, because he's got stake in defeated European champions PSG in that second group game
it
of
goes
this
to
year's
nil.
Club World Cup. Yeah, they go to nil.
Well, still talking about the Club World Cup. No, I think we've left the Club World Cup. But then, we say that this one in the Nigeria President's Federation's Cup, Abakaliki Football Club, definitely in their game at Saturday, they are already in Lagos ahead of that game against Kwara United. And then for NPFL side, 𝐿 Warriors, they have officially announced their new technical crew for that are following the departure of Aliyu Zubairu. Then from their technical advisors, we have that the new chief coach Mohamed Kali Kachala, and then we have Ibrahim Imam and Ishaq Usaini Goni as the assistant coaches of that 𝐿 Warriors going into next season. And lastly, before we leave in the world of basketball, all right, before basketball, for Sampdoria, well, of course, they will remain in the Serie B after league awarded them a 3-0 victory over Salernitana following the postponement of Sunday's second leg relegation playoffs. And then we talk about this one, Wimbledon, for Andy Murray. Well, they are set to also unveil a statue for him, but not in this year, not next year, but 2027.
Okay. So that period we should be having an election here, right? Okay. That's on a lighter note, but it's good. The last ATP WTA last week in London, where of course we'll have the Grand Slam for the year. One of the stand was actually named after him, so it's good. It's getting closer. It's Sir, yeah. SAMIES, next time you put Sir in front of Andy